You are tarnished. I can see it. And I can also see that you are not after my throat. Then why not purchase a little something? I have many fine goods for sale. Come, sit by my fire and have a look, won't you? Oh, you have nothing to worry about with me. I am of a nomadic people, selling wares as I travel. The land has been tainted by madness since the shattering of the Elden ring. It's only tarnished like yourself who keep things from drying up entirely. Let's say you're a very welcome customer. Indeed, I have no quarrel with the tarnished. Your rooms are as good as anyone's, and you'll need to be well stocked if you're planning on pushing forth on the path ahead. Limgrave isn't the safest of places, though I'm sure you've gathered that. Best to be well prepared, especially if you're going to face Lord Godric. Don't fret, I have no objection to it. He's really not my lord. Plus, the place would probably be better off without him, judging by the state of his lands. I am vaguely familiar with the role of tarnished. The prophecy that declares one of you may very well be the next Elden Lord. I don't know if you're after such a thing, but you look determined at whatever it is you're planning. And considering the hostilities against your kind, best to be equipped as well as can be, especially being unfamiliar with the lands between. I've traveled to many corners of this land, none better than the last, I'm afraid. I'm sure you have no illusions about what awaits you. Shall I present you with my selection then? Excellent. Firstly, if you can spare the runes, you should buy yourself a crafting kit. A crafting kit allows you to make basic items on your own. Essential, really, if you intend to survive out here for any duration. The kit costs a bundle, and I admit, I do take my cut. But the important thing is that you survive. Every customer counts, after all. I'm glad you would take my warning to heart. You've made an excellent choice. Shall we look at armor next? I do have a few pieces I think would fit you well and provide you with a bit of protection on your journey. They are a bit heavy, but not by too much, though you look to be a sturdy sort. So I think it will serve you just fine. Here I have this chain armor. It's standard issue for ordinary soldiers in these parts. You can see the chain is woven quite well, with very little gap between the links. It does look rather plain, but it can offer you dependable protection. I have a whole set here, which includes this chest piece, as well as the helm, the gauntlets, and the leggings. They're all woven and lined with the same material. You don't have to purchase as a set, but if you do, I can give you a discount. Now, shall we talk weapons? What is your manner of combat? Ah, a jack of all trades, I see. Well, I suppose it never hurts to be versatile. Shall we begin with the basic swords then? Excellent. Well, swords and shields in a manner of speaking. I really only have one sword, meant for single hand wielding. But I have a few others you could combine with the use of a shield. You will have to forgive me, but the pickings are slim nowadays. But still, better than nothing. For weapons, first to show you, I have this broadsword. A simple straight sword, but with a wide blade. This suited for slashing attacks. I am no swordswoman, but wide horizontal swings are the style best suited for this weapon. But it is a sword, and it is quite sharp, so I'm sure you could adapt to it. I also have this axe, not nearly as flashy, but don't underestimate its power when used properly. These things are sturdy enough to cleave your foes in two, but light enough to keep swinging until your enemies cannot stand. Not to mention, it's quite useful if you'll be wandering the forest for any length of time. I am quite the fan of a multi-tool myself. Do you have another sword? Yes. I don't usually recommend it to most travelers, but you look like you may actually be able to make use of it. Now, it's not something you could combine with a shield. Well, not if you're any mere human creature. This sword is known as the Zweihander. It's rather colossal in size, and it's meant to be wielded with both hands. Those of ordinary strength would struggle to even lift such a weapon. But you seem quite strapping, perhaps more so than you look. This blade is extremely heavy and extremely sharp. It will cut through your enemies and send them reeling back. But also, if you can manage it, a sharp thrust will have the ability to pierce right through standard armors. It is that formidable. Just something to consider. For shields, I do have a bit more variety to offer. We will begin with the smallest and work our way up. Firstly, this riveted wooden shield. A small, basic, round shield. It is wooden, so not the sturdiest. However, it has been reinforced with metal. The wood can be a benefit to you if you like to stay light on your feet. It's very easy to handle and can take a decent blow to spare you some time to recover. Next, I have a small round shield of pure metal. It is heavier than the previous shield, but the metal will provide you much greater protection. If you aren't entirely sure of your fighting style, or are a bit rusty with it, I do think this shield is well balanced and suited to different styles, so it would serve you well as you hone your skills once more. Now, this shield, also a round shield, but it is bigger than the previous two. This one does have metal rivets, like the first shield, but it is not entirely metal. However, the wooden base underneath is wrapped in hardened layers of leather. This not only gives it more durability, but it allows you to brace for a wider range of attacks, both due to its size and material. Lastly, the final shield I have to show you is my best piece. This medium-sized blue gold kite shield. Exceptionally well made of fine quality material. This shield is solid and reliable, and it can take quite the hit. If you are going up against enemies stronger than you, it may be worth your while to get this shield. It will not easily break, and so long as you have the power to brace against it, it will protect you from nearly every attack. If you are a sword and shield fighter by nature, I imagine you already know how valuable a shield like this can be, and it wouldn't be worth your time to go with anything else. Plus, if you are a bit rusty, this will give you the most leeway as you reintroduce yourself to combat. For other weapons, I do have an assortment of arrows, bolts, but I'm afraid all I have currently in stock is this short bow. Just a small standard bow. I am sure you are familiar with it. It can fire at great distances, as well as it's kindly suited for use on horseback, if you plan on acquiring a steed at some point. Even if not, it's always good to have an option for ranged battle. And if not for battle, then hunting. You'll still need to eat sometime. Bow hunting will be the most reliable way to feed yourself while you're traveling. I can supply you with a great number of arrows. They are not very difficult for me to make by hand. It was taught to me by a master archer in my home village. They will always fly straight. If you have an interest in more unusual things, however, I have a few of these special arrows. They are carved to resemble a water lily, and they are imbued with a powerful sleeping magic. I did not make these myself, I'm afraid, so I cannot procure you more. I only have a handful. I took them for payment for services from a passerby some time ago and held on to them. Truthfully, I haven't need of such a thing, and I feel I would be wasting their potential to use them for ordinary tasks. Similarly, I have a few great arrows as well. They could almost be mistaken for spears, but these are used by extremely skilled archers with monstrous strength. I don't possess a great bow, I'm afraid, so it will be of little use to you now. But I thought you would just appreciate such a weapon. Ballistas are not rare in these lands, so it would be easy for you to get your hands on one. And should you do, I can supply you with bolts. Similarly to arrows, I can make them myself, and I guarantee their quality. Now that we have covered your basic necessities, allow me to show you some wares I think may be useful or of interest to someone like yourself who plans to do a great bit of traveling. Tools, I think, may come in handy. Firstly, I have this telescope. It allows you to see things further away, which will be very good if you need to scout ahead of yourself. These were used by the old astrologers, though there are not too many of them around anymore. Also, I have this lantern. It is rather small, but this chain here is meant to secure around the waist. It isn't as bright as a torch, but you can use it hands-free, which may be more important, especially if you plan on exploring any of the tombs or caves that dot the lands. Heed my warning. If you do venture in, stay on your guard. To say they are unsafe is an understatement. But if you are planning to go to such locations, this may be of interest to you also. I have a stone sword key. You may have already seen some of the doors blocked by magic. These are ancient blockades that will stand forever unless you have a very specific key to unlock them. By the doors are statues of imps. You may have noticed they have a keyhole at the crown. If you place one of these inside, the door will open. Do note that once inserted, it cannot be removed. No one is sure who designed such things. It said these sealed passages have stood for many ages, and keys are rare to come by, so they are very valuable. But what is sealed away behind such magic must be even more so, don't you think? But I am not an explorer, so I do not mind to sell the key for the right price. I also have a few medicines here. I'm supplied with 3 types: neutralizing, staunching, and stimulating. Especially around these parts, you may find neutralizing to be most valuable. Should you become infected with a poison, take one of these to alleviate the damage. It may not bring your strength back, however, so take one and find respite immediately. Staunching will help to clot your blood if you find yourself bleeding out too quickly. And finally, the stimulating medicines will keep you awake, even should you become afflicted with magic that risks pulling you under. It will stimulate your senses and make you hyper-aware. I do not recommend taking one if you haven't been afflicted by a sleeping agent. It will put your body into a hyper state of awareness. Your pulse will be too quick and your mind will race. It will be much too overstimulating and could cause you real grief. If you know anything of medicine, I do sell a few ingredients common to most recipes. By having a stock of it, you'll be able to make it as you need and make it more potent. If you do not know how to craft medicines or other useful items and are curious, I do have some recipe books. You are welcome to skim through them. Some will teach you recipes to cook that will give you higher tolerances to certain afflictions, or harden your body to offer a better defense, or even to accelerate the healing process. There are also instructions for using regions to their fullest magical potential as well. And it isn't only for food. It will teach you ways to enhance your weapons, greases, and alchemical pots. It will allow you to make use of magical power, even if you do not possess it naturally. They are very handy. These guides are compiled from different sources, but they are all proven. I do think that is about all I have that may interest you. I have a few other odds and ends you're welcome to comb through, but these are the bulk of what I have that you may also be able to make use of. I am willing to share information with you about certain things if you are interested, for just a small fee. I gather as much information as I can about everything I can while on my travels. So if there is something you'd like to know about, just ask, and I may be able to offer you something of value. I don't mind to transcribe it for you either, if you can read and worry about forgetting. Yes, actually, I know quite a bit about that. Why don't you make yourself comfortable and I'll tell you about it? You're welcome to rest here for the night if you wish. It's a relatively safe place. I haven't had much trouble here. No fee, of course. It's getting late and I don't like the idea of sending you out on your way in the dark. Come, sit by the fire and listen closely, and I'll tell you everything I know about